back in the days when hip-hop began with Coca La Rock.
Okay, so I'm here with, introduce yourself.
I'm Coca La Rock. I'm the first MC of hip-hop.
Did you know any Jamaican B-boys or Jamaican?
No.
What about Puerto Ricans? Did you know any Puerto Ricans?
I know like a handful. I know a handful.
That was breakdancing. Was there any Puerto Ricans breakdancing at that time?
We put it to you straight up. There wasn't no Puerto Ricans.
Wasn't no Puerto Rican. Wow.
Until the parties.
You only knew one Puerto Rican B-boy at the time.
Johnny Cool.
That was one Puerto Rican. So Puerto Rican culture that had nothing to do with starting hip hop?
Nah,
Right.
not at all. No part of any Spanish culture started hip hop. So don't just say Puerto Ricans. Any Spanish culture had nothing to do with the creation of hip hop.
Nowadays, we got some pretty well-known rappers speaking publicly about their opinions about hip-hop started from Jamaican culture and Puerto Ricans was 50-50 in the creation of hip-hop. You agree with that?
No.
Okay.
Hip-hop, to me, the birth of it was an all-black day.
We put it to you straight up. There wasn't no Puerto Ricans.
Wasn't no Puerto Rican.
Until the parties. Y'all want to know the truth? No. Spanish Brothers was not breakdancing in the 70s. 71, 72, 73, 70. Matter of fact, they barely came to some of our parties.
Sasa, Trixie, DJ Faze, Cool DJ D. Because there's a big difference between what Fat Joe say, KRS-One say, and what the people who was actually there would say. You mentioned B Street. Now, see, the B Street happened in the early 80s, mid 80s now. And see, I think this is what confuses people because in B Street, you see a lot of Puerto Rican B-boys in there. You see like a nice mixture of Puerto Rican and African American.
Yeah, but they came in the 80s.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
Was it like that in the 70s?
No.
It wasn't like that?
No.
Beat Street and Wild Style and Breaking. And Wild Style is interesting because I think the guy's name is Lee Quiones. You know, analyzing how people got misled about how hip-hop started, I trace it back to those movies because they put Puerto Rican faces on those movies.
Right.
And even like Wild Style, they show like in the club or the party when they was performing, you look out in the crowd, you see 90% African-American faces.
Right.
But the face of the movie itself was Puerto Rican.
Spanish.
I think what really misled people was those movies and also KRS-One's South Bronx.
Yes.
Because when he came out with that South Bronx, yeah, it gave us dignity from being from the Bronx. It gave us dignity, but at the same time,
it was taken away from the creation of where it came from.
Right, because the South Bronx is probably a nice mix of Puerto Ricans and African Americans.
Right.
And so people always associate the start of hip hop with the South Bronx, that mixture. But the problem with that is the two main groups that's claiming the start of hip hop is not from the South Bronx.
Right, neither group.
Right, neither group. The two groups that claim the start of hip hop is Coke La Rock, Kool Herc, and they call it the West Side.
This thing called hip hop that the West Side created.
Then I moved to the West Side.
Then I moved to the West Side when I was like in the 6th grade.
Not once did they say we was in the South Bronx and we did this and we did that.
Right.
And today, it's to be scholarly correct, hip-hop started in the West Bronx. It never started in the South Bronx.
It was surprising for me to see what Fat Joe said because I've seen video where Fat Joe said he grew up in a 90% African-American neighborhood, or he said black.
And I grew up in a 90% black neighborhood. So I had to go hard since birth.
He said 90% black neighborhood. But Fat Joe grew up in a 90% African-American neighborhood, so how can he turn around and say hip-hop started 50-50?
Right.
I saw a video of Fat Joe at a party, like in the middle 1980s. He was at a party totally outnumbered. And he was like the only Spanish dude. Might have been one or two others, but he was totally outnumbered in this party. And I think that's a good example of how hip hop started. African American culture was totally dominating early hip hop.
And you even said that's the 80s. So imagine the 70s.
Exactly.
This is what happened to our ancient civilization. We freely gave it to everybody. Said, yo, come on and be part of this, man. This is about humanity. Come on and be part. So everybody comes and be parts of our thing. Then they take it back to their culture and manipulate it in their culture, then say they did it.
But he was making it in reference of people from India and, you know, far off nations. But no, that what he said applies to us here in the Bronx.
Right.
We created things that Puerto Ricans and Jamaicans are trying to take claim of what we did.
But for what though? What I don't understand is what about our creations are so good that someone has to want to claim what we've done. So in other words, basically this, what do they want to say that we created? What? If we can't, if there's somebody that created the music, okay. Somebody created the MCing, okay. Somebody created the fashion, okay. Somebody created graffiti, okay. So what are they actually saying that we created?
With all respect to my Puerto Rican people and culture, Puerto Ricans didn't start hip hop at all. My African American brothers created hip hop, whether it was Africa Bambaataa, DJ Kool Herc, or Red Alert, or let's go back to Grandmaster Theodore. That's my boy. I'm from the neighborhood where the buildings were on fire. Yeah, I made that clear. And in that neighborhood, a lot of the pioneers of hip hop, Bambaataa, Flash, and all the B-boys were all black. I didn't see no Latino B-boys. No había ningún B-boy latino, todos eran negros. Yeah. Never heard of TBB, never heard of CC, never heard of them. In my neighborhood, all the B-boys, never heard of them. The king of breaking was Beaver, Zulu King. El rey del breaking era Beaver de los Zulu Kings. He was the #1 B-boy in my time. What time was that? Late 70s, 77, 78, 79. B-boy was the king. Zulu Kings were the best in the Bronx.
I can do this, you know, and I saw what he was doing, and I'm like, I know I could do this. You know, so I went back and I started practicing and trying to get it and and I'm finally.
You were mimicking what you would see him doing?
What I was seeing, Flash. You know, they tell you, listen, they tell you Latinos created hip hop. That's not true.
No, absolutely right.
Were we there to help develop it in the evolution? Absolutely.